Okay, welcome to Fresh Set of Downs. My name is Bruce Badgley. I'm joined as always below me there, Mr. Dave Micah. I feel almost like Paul Lynde, and like the Hollywood Squares here with I got Joe Santiloquito, but our special guest tonight, with this season over, Bob Long always joins us here on Fresh Set of Downs. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks so much for having me back this year. Yeah, the LaSalle football season is over, and so our scheduled broadcast season is done. But this is also where the fun really starts. I'm sure I'll be dipping my toe in all over the state over the next few weeks, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, talk a little bit about, obviously what you're doing there, Bob, for some of the fans that are not as familiar with Bob Long Sports as maybe some of the Philadelphia fans there on, what you're doing and what's your mantra as far as like publicizing high school sports athletes?
Sure. Bob Long Sports started about a decade ago. I started it while I was in college at the time, so now it's stretching over a decade, dating myself. And we got into the business of broadcasting high school sports. It started as a radio feed, essentially. We didn't have video capabilities. Technical capabilities were not what they are here today. And my alma mater is LaSalle College High School in District 12 in Philadelphia. And so we built this over time, mostly focusing on LaSalle High School football and basketball games, improving the product along the way, HD picture, replay as years have gone on, improving our broadcast team, hopefully refining my craft myself over the course of those 10 years to where we are now, which is a hallmark at LaSalle, doing most of their major sports, and then also being a pretty common presence across the Philadelphia Catholic League. You know, we've done things such as the semifinals at the Palestra for the PCL basketball tournament. Have done many other state playoff games en route to the finals. Have started doing some work for the finals at the state level itself. So what started as Bob Long Sports, just little niche LaSalle High School, it's still absolutely the meat of what we do, guys. But we have some capabilities to publicize and showcase high school athletes in a positive way beyond just the bounds of District 12. And we've been really lucky with the support that we've had, the tremendous broadcast teams that we have. We have several alums that help out, and we've gotten students involved as well, folks that want to go do this in college and beyond. So it's been really fun. It's a great thing and fun to talk about as well.
Yeah, you also did the state championship games last year. That's a lot of the reason why, obviously this is the Dave and I and Joe or the EPA team that'll be there. But last year you did, the play-by-play or the color for NFHS Network on some of the championship games. So obviously you're familiar with championship football. We're starting to get into championship football. So that's why we brought you in. Talk a little bit about your experience of calling state championship football games.
It was a great experience last year, and one that I look forward to hopefully more opportunities in the future. NFHS does a great job. It's a unique model, right? You pay 10.99 to have access to all 12 games and technically access to the entirety of the app for 30 days. So it is nice to have that opportunity. But the folks Dave and Alicia Emenheiser, who produced the games and have done that in the past, they're just tremendous. The folks at the NFHS network is great. Eric, who does games out in central Pennsylvania, he's great. It's a great organization. I've enjoyed the opportunity and hopefully made good on it, right? Hopefully the folks that watched the games enjoyed what we had to say, and enjoyed the analysis that we brought to the games. And the games themselves weren't that bad either. We had that thriller
Yeah,
between Penn Trafford and Imhotep last year on a Friday night.
right.
We had a 7-0 defensive onslaught between Wyomissing and the eventual champion Central Valley. And then St. Joe's Prep, who was going for their sixth and 8 year, upended by Bob Palco and a Mount Lebanon team that put 18 senior starters out there on the field. Their best team in the history of the program, you could argue. So 3 classics, and was thrilled to have the opportunity. There's just nothing like championship football, guys, and it's that time of year.
Yeah, it is. Dave, you got a question for Bob?
Yeah, Bob. So this year, any games stand out for you this year that you broadcast?
There were a couple games that stood out. I'll start with the most recent one. LaSalle played St. Joe's Prep in a rematch of a regular season tilt. The way the schedule shakes out, that's going to happen most every year. St. Joe's is a national type program. LaSalle is a very, very consistent program in Pennsylvania that if St. Joe's Prep wasn't in their way every year, they would have some deep state tournament runs to show for themselves over the last decade. But LaSalle was hurting a little bit this year. They were onto their third string quarterback, who also happened to be the day one backup running back. And St. Joe's Prep had beaten them by 30 earlier in the year. But LaSalle's defense, beleaguered and battered, hung in there, made things difficult for St. Joe's Prep. Couldn't go with that run first offense to set up the pass quite as well. And LaSalle held them really well. The quarterback played very well for the Explorers, and they had the ball on St. Joe's Prep side of midfield, down 8 with 2 minutes left in the game. Didn't end up scoring, but what a game that was. And you saw those numbers, the viewership numbers tick up and up and up because the word was spreading. There's a ball game in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. So that one certainly sticks out. The other one, to talk a little District 3 guys and a team that's going to be playing this weekend, I had the chance to see Bishop McDevitt very early on. And they did play against LaSalle. It was the year 2 of a home and home. And Bishop McDevitt blew LaSalle out of the building. Now, LaSalle struggling a little bit at that point? They were. But I saw as much talent at the skill positions in that game as I've seen anywhere. Including the St. Joe's Prep team that I got to see twice. There are some tremendous players on that Bishop McDevitt team, and I loved what I saw out of them. And that was a team that immediately I threw in the back of my mind. I might be seeing them again.
Joe, you got a question for Bob?
Yeah, Bob, talk about the freshman quarterback at LaSalle, what his name is and what he's shown you so in the games you watched them this year.
Yeah, of course. Gavin Sidwar, a highly touted freshman coming in, and the LaSalle decided to go with an alternating 2 series on, 2 series off with the senior quarterback also named Gavin Damon. So he started, and then Sidwar, the freshman, came in after 2 series against North Penn. And nothing against the senior, but Gavin Sidwar did not leave the game at that point forward. And it was a game where LaSalle needed to come back from 18 points at one point, did so. Sidwar was at one point 2 for 2 with 2 touchdowns in that game, completed his first 5 or 6 passes, and you think you're off to a rocking start. He had pretty good pocket presence, certainly a great arm. Now, the book got out a little bit, and the junior running back, Stevie Davis, who is fantastic, he came back in the second half of the year. Once Stevie Davis got hurt, it was pin the ears back on the defensive line and go after the quarterback because really LaSalle didn't have that second option. So, in that way, I do feel that we were left not seeing what I think we all hoped to see from Gavin Sidwar. He ended up getting hurt against St. Joe's Prep, and that ended his season. So a flaming hot start, and what's there. He's only going to grow and improve. And for LaSalle's sake, the hope is that they get help around him, Joe, so that what you saw against North Penn, that he's put in a position to succeed like that game after game, year after year. They're folks are really excited about him, and rightly so.
No, Bob, he's 6'3".
That's right.
Okay, he's pencil thin. I mean, when I met him last week at just popping in at the LaSalle prep game at O'Hara, he was pencil thin, but like I said, he was pretty impressive young man. I mean, he came up, and, introduced himself, and I was impressed.
Can't hear you, Joe. We lost your sound.
I lost my sound.
There, now we can hear you. I
Much
don't know.
better.
Much
So,
better.
I said I got a chance to meet him in person. Teased him. I said, what you do, fail 12 grades? He says, 'cause he's a big kid. He's a tall kid for his age. So, could you talk about his poise off the field, on the field? I mean, I got a feeling LaSalle's going to do pretty well with these next 2 or 3 years. I mean, Samaj Jones is a junior, so LaSalle in the air is going to have to put up with him for another year. But after this could be, I remember when Flash was there. By the way, is Gordon still associated with the program?
He is not currently coaching, but but I mean that family is always connected to the school. Yeah, yep, know them very well. Tremendous, both both him and his son, both Brett, the son, and Drew, the longtime head coach.
So, what can you tell me about Gavin's poise?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, with things like that, I read the tea leaves and I hear what kids are saying about him. I'll give you the preseason and I'll give you the postseason, right? Preseason, went to some practices, was talking to some of the seniors. Hey, how's Gavin doing? Hey, he's great, right? We're ready to run through the wall for him. He understands that a lot is being expected of him, but also recognizes the leadership of the seniors, came in with a great attitude, right? Wanted to work really hard. Talked to some of our folks involved with the broadcast after the season and other students in the building, and basically saying, hey, like this is a young man who's very engaged in the school beyond football, right? Engaged in class, engaged with his teammates and other classmates, involved on the sidelines, right? I mean, he wasn't able to play the second half of the season. That stinks. I mean, that really stinks. You come in as a freshman and you have the opportunity to play. You play well, and then you get hurt. But from what I understand, that engagement, that drive, that work ethic, and that teamwork did not subside at all. So, a lot to be excited about.
Good. I tell you what, let's keep Bob on here and kind of go through some of the brackets here, guys. Okay, because there's a lot of Philadelphia Catholic League and District 1 teams to talk about. So I am going to see what we can do here. See if I can get my share my screen here. And I don't know why it's not allowing me to share my screen. Well,
while Bruce does that, Dave, what were your big takeaways from last week? I know we talked a lot about LaSalle, St. Joe's prep, but what did you see up your way?
Up here, I think the teams you thought would won. I was at the Northampton Parkland game. Northampton was the last undefeated 6A team, and they primarily are playing teams up in the Pocono region, where in the South, you're playing Parkland, Nazareth, Easton, Emmaus, so it's a lot tougher road that way. But looking at it, Parkland, I thought Northampton moved the ball well on them, but just a lot of crucial bad snaps, bad plays, penalties, and Parkland capitalized on it. But he has the bracket up here. It looks like we're looking at 1A. So
yes, we are. And we'll start with 1A. We'll finish, obviously, with some of the bigger schools. But, I mean, we're really technically in the first, I think the second week of the state tournament when it comes to 1A. Not a lot of exposure, I don't think, for obviously District 1 and District 12. But Dave, who are some of the teams, from, obviously District 2, 4, 11, 6 that you like?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the East bracket, you look at the bottom, we'll start there. Great matchup last week, Canton versus Muncie, who was undefeated. I liked Canton in that game, and boy, they came out firing and 42-7 win. This week they have a bye. They're going to play the winner of Penn's Manor and Northern Cambria. I kind of like Penn's Manor in this game, but some are saying that could be a toss up. But the game, the District 211 matchup in single A is actually the matchup from last year in double A. Both teams dropped down to single A
Wow.
this year, and Northern Lehigh won that game, eventually losing to state champ Southern Columbia. I like Northern Lehigh to go up in District 2 territory, take care of business, win that, and then you're going to have that matchup with Steel High. And when you probably look at that Final Four, and I'm talking the big three in the East, that's Steel High, Canton, Northern Lehigh. That's how I would rank them, 1, 2, 3. I still think, Steel High, when it's all said and done, will be the team that will represent the East, and has a great shot to win the single A state title this year.
I did their District 3 championship game, Steel High, that is. They're just incredibly talented for a 1A team with speed, and Alex Irby, the quarterback, is just top flight. But
Division 1 kid.
oh yeah, he's got his choice. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the bracket, I am familiar with obviously some of the teams that do a Whitfield show. Probably the most interesting game is you have a 10 seed and a 14 seed still in the tournament, Union and Rochester. So there is going to be a Cinderella story for the Whitfield title there, and it's going to be really interesting. But I think 1A, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun, as it is most years. Let's move on to 2A here really quick. And for obviously for I was trying to think. I don't think. West Catholic still in there, Bob. They're up against Trinity, a team here from District 3, and Trinity with some fine athletes. What, you got anything to offer on West Catholic?
Yeah, I think that's going to listen, from everything I understand about Trinity, that's a tough game for West Catholic there. I believe they are the lone 2A school in the Catholic League. I could be wildly off on that, but I believe that to be the case. But the Burrs are always tough. Listen, looks like they put it to Bristol last week, but from everything I understand, Trinity is going to be real tough. The other school that I naturally glide to is BG up there, top.
Yeah.
Very, very top on the right there.
Yeah, right. From Altoona, right, sure.
Out of Altoona. I got family up there, and has been have a pretty deep understanding of BG's long-time success and that very long winning streak that was ended, I don't know, 4 years ago. But a very proud program. They get a lot of the talent from up there in Altoona that otherwise might go to Altoona area, and it's still a talent-rich area up there. So that's a fun one against Penns Valley.
And now playing 2A, they just knocked off the number 1 seed Richland, and I like them to come out of that bracket and win this game this week and face, which is going to be a tremendous matchup, Mount Carmel versus Southern Columbia. You have Mount Carmel as the number 1 seed, where Southern Columbia has dominated District 4 in double A, and Southern Columbia is healthy right now. They got Wes Barnes, their stud running back. They have their 2 stud running backs in that game, and I know Mount Carmel's, they're probably looking over their shoulder in this game. I think Southern Columbia would love no better to go to the Silver Bowl and defeat an undefeated Mount Carmel team. And that one, I'll tell you what, that is going to be standing room only. There's going to be a huge crowd in that game. What do you think, Bruce?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think that that's maybe the marquee matchup, but the team that really has my eye is out west. And Dave and Joe, or excuse me, Bob and Joe, you can relate to what it would be like to have a Philadelphia public league school, move on into, the District 12 or the PIAA tournament. Well, that's really what Westinghouse is.
Yeah.
That's a District 8 team from Pittsburgh area who's having a whale of a season. They're up against Central Clarion. Kind of the Cinderella story right now, I think, of the 2A tournament is Westinghouse out of the Philadelphia Public League. So a lot of good stories
You mean
there.
Pittsburgh?
Or excuse me, Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh public league there. Rarely happens, but they've had a great year beating some top flight programs. So let's kind of move it on to 3A. Now we're starting to get into everybody's wheelhouse here. But another group of great matchups. Newman Goretti's still in it there, Joe.
Yeah, that's well, Abby Crosby does a great job year after year. He has some incredible talent. And I again, I thought for a little bit there they were out of it. They had lost. I know they lost this season to what we're finding out is a very good Bonner team. I don't know much about Scranton Prep. Maybe you guys could tune me in.
Yeah, Scranton Prep actually going into the season had arguably the top running back in the state, London Montgomery. Unfortunately, a young man basically tore his ACL in a 7-on-7 that actually I was at and witnessed that play. And it was actually on defense when it happened. He came down awkwardly and ended up, he missed the whole season. But listen, this Scranton Prep team, I think, probably about week 3, 4, they started finding their way. They're still a very talented team. I think this one's going to be a good game, a close game. You might favor Newman slightly, but I think this one could be a toss up.
Yeah, I think
looking down the bracket, Bruce, last year in the semifinal, please correct me if at any point I'm wrong, but I believe it was Wyomissing taking down Newman Goretti in the East semifinal.
Yeah, I was
and
at that game.
Wyomissing went, yeah.
I was
And
standing on the
so,
sidelines with James Franklin for most of the game. There was that much talent on the field that night. But you're exactly
looking at
right.
Javen Williams, I'm sure among others that evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a couple games away from that potential matchup again, which would be fun.
Yeah, Wyomissing's got a tough road. Okay, I mean
They
they're
do.
they're gonna have to do it on the road. They're gonna have to go through the likes of Danville, or Loyalsock,
Yeah.
on the road, and that's the thing. And I've said that really all year. I think that Wyomissing has a much tougher road getting to Cumberland Valley this year than they did last year. I think that the depth of talent on the east side of the bracket is good. And I think still there's that 800-pound gorilla coming out of the WPIAL in Bell Vernon. It had been Central Valley was their Achilles heel the last couple of years in the title game. Wyomissing losing to Central Valley. This year, I think it could be Bell Vernon. Bell Vernon, very good. They have not lost to any 3A teams. They've only lost to 4 and 5A teams this year. I expect Bell Vernon to kind of run roughshod, even though Central is still in it. That was a championship team last year.
That was going to be the team I was going to bring up there, Bruce. That Central returns the quarterback again. Another team that's happy to see Central Valley move up. That was a team that actually returned a whole bunch of guys from that football roster. Went and dominated the baseball state championships at Penn State in the spring last year as well. Excited to see what those guys do from that school district.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of depth across the board yet. So let's kind of move it on up to 4A, and this is where it really starts to get interesting. Obviously, Bob, you can talk on Bishop McDevitt there, and the other thing is that since they're on the top, people are going to have to go. They're going to be at home pretty much all the way to Hershey because they're at the top of the bracket. I mean, not that they needed any more advantage other than the fact I think that they've got probably 10 D1 guys on that team, right?
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for good venues as well. That's as good a venue as there is. What they've done out there in Harrisburg with that Bishop McDevitt football stadium, but the team's
Right.
unbelievable, right? Stone Saunders is unbelievable. The talent he has on the outside. Sincere Bowers, I really like him. Right, there are those big names that you know about. He can become, he's unbelievable. There's so many talented guys on that roster. The defense is incredible. The secondary is deep and super talented. Very, very big fan of what that program's doing right now.
Yeah, Joe, and Bonner's still in it too. I mean, they're always a tough out.
Yeah, but this is a little bit of a different team than they've had here before. A little bit more depth, and this is interesting. Where's our man Mike? Is he still here?
Yeah, he's still there. Mike is still there.
Okay, maybe I'm just he's off.
He's laying back there.
There we go.
He's laying back.
Dave was bringing up here, and Edinburgh has a pretty special running back. Dave, what's the kid's name?
Yeah, again? It's Abu. I would have to see what his last name is. But this kid is, I mean, week after week, 200 yards rushing, 300 yards rushing. This past weekend, I think he was over 250, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he has just been a one-man wrecking crew. And does Bonner have an answer to stop him? I guess we're gonna find out. But I have a sneaky suspicion whoever wins this game may have a date with Bishop McDevitt down the road.
Yeah. Oh, clearly. And up your way too, Valley View. I mean, really, quite honestly, that's a team that has kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but boy, they waxed Dallas, a pretty good team.
Yeah, they did. And Valley View's playing really good ball right now. So is Crestwood. Crestwood has been probably the top, 4A team up there in District 2. And again, I mean, this is a game that could be a toss-up. I kind of like Crestwood in this one. I kind of like maybe Bonner in the one above and have that Crestwood Bonner matchup. But you're right. I mean, District 3, it'll be interesting if you get that Manheim Central Bishop McDevitt matchup.
Wow, yeah.
That's a lot of firepower but I've liked McDevitt from day one, and I think that's a team that could win a state title this year.
I was people got all over me because I put out on Twitter the fact that I thought that Manheim Central and Bishop McDevitt were on a collision course, and all the LS fans just piled on me. Said, well, "What about us? We're playing Manheim Central this week." And that's obviously a real big rivalry.
Oh, absolutely. Now, little trivia. I'm sure Bruce, but we'll see if the other guys know. Bishop McDevitt is the only school to have 2 NFL runners that have rushed over 10,000 yards in their career in the NFL. Could you name those 2 guys?
First is McCoy.
Yeah. McCoy's one, and who's the other?
Ricky Waters.
That's
absolutely right. Yeah, that's right.
Ricky Waters. Yep. Yeah.
The only school in America.
One. Look at there. Mr.
The only school in America. Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty
special. Pretty special.
Yeah.
And let's not forget in 4A, let's not forget Jersey Shore. I mean, they're in the West bracket, even though they're kind of an Eastern team. to kind of equal things out. But I mean, Jersey Shore, my God, they've just been a juggernaut here. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, I mean, Allentown Central Catholic, I was at that game this past weekend against Bethlehem Catholic. They beat their rival 14-3. Last year when these two matched up, it was up. I think it was at Jay Burney, or it was up in the area here in District 11, and it was only a 20-7 football game. Jersey Shore won, and I expect this could be. I mean, Jersey Shore. Listen, this is a team that's averaging high 40s, low 50s all
Crazy.
year. I think this one could be a little low scoring, probably mid 20s type game. But, talking to Central Catholic's coach after the game last week, he said he felt that they left some things on the field last year and they need to play at the level that what Jersey Shore is. And, we'll find out. Central Catholic's big up front, and they're tough to run on. So Jersey Shore may have to throw the ball a little more than what they've been doing.
All I have to say is Aliquippa is still the juggernaut in this.
Oof.
Bob, obviously, but I guess only Central Valley and Aliquippa are kind of in the same bracket up there. I mean, that's
I
what's
was
incredible.
Say, if your guy Ian has to be excited about that potential WPIAL championship, a rematch of what was the battle of the undefeateds for X many years, right?
Yeah.
And I guess you
Yeah.
never really know when you have these classifications and teams moving up and teams moving down and success formula this and enrollment that. But if these two programs somehow remain in the same classification for any length of time, that you could be looking at a really nice rivalry year over year.
And think about the talent that's come out of Aliquippa, all the Hall of Famers, and then the NFL when you're talking Dicka, Tony Dorsett, just to name a few. So much
Rivas, right?
Ty
Didn't
Law.
Darrell Rivas?
Yeah, and I think Ty Law too is from Aliquippa.
Yeah.
Just lot of rich history out of the western side of the state.
Yeah, the 4A classification, I think, and I've said it all year, I think it's probably for really everything other than say District 1 and 12, it's probably the deepest classification across the entire state of Pennsylvania. The 4A bracket there. So now let's get into 5A. This is where we really start getting into some District 1 stuff, and especially gosh, Joe, Upper Dublin and Plymouth Whitemarsh going at it. That's been chalk there in that bracket in District 1. What do you think about that game?
Again, the one time I saw Upper Dublin, they just absolutely rolled, and they didn't even play that well. So that's still my point of reference with them. That is, Coach Brett Stover does a great job each year. They have a very, very competent quarterback that's able to change things there at the line of scrimmage. They have a hefty running game, and they're right now just smoking everyone. I'm looking here. They had one tough game this year. They beat 6A North Penn, and a North Penn that was, that was resurgent there at the end of the season. They beat North Penn 32-28. So this looks like this is going to be the collision course I think we all saw coming with Upper Dublin and Strathaven. That game is going to. There's a strong possibility that game's going to happen here, and Upper Dublin's coming.
Yeah, Joe, that North Penn win you were talking about was very much a defining win. If I don't remember incorrectly, it was a 2-score game late, midway through the fourth quarter, scored 2 late touchdowns to come back and beat the Knights, which was a real signature for them.
And Strathaven, Coach Clancy does a great job each year. What they do is no mystery. They pound, 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 pound. And if there's a team that's capable of beating Upper Dublin, it could be Strathaven simply for I mean, we saw there at pro level Monday night with the Washington Commanders and the Eagles. You're dealing with a team that might not have the talent in Washington. Certainly don't have the talent to keep up with the Eagles, but they kept the Eagles offense off the field. And for Coach Clancy and Strathaven to beat Upper Dublin, for anyone to beat Upper Dublin, they're going to have to keep that offense off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bob, I mean, another titanic battle. This time a little bit different there, but Imhotep going up against Roman. Roman now a 5A school. I mean, what do you think about that one? That's clearly in my mind, that's the marquee 5A matchup in the state this week.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Roman Catholic, like you said, dropped down from 6A to 5A. But this matchup doesn't mean anything if this isn't Roman Catholic's best team in years, in a decade. And that's exactly what this is. Rick Freed has done an excellent job with this team. Freshman quarterback, Tysier Denmark, incredible on the skill position side. Jameel Lyons, unbelievable defensive, lineman, but also more depth on that team. Now, this team, I think the struggle is going to be, though, that Imhotep is very complete on the defensive side of the football. They still have a really good offensive line. They have good skill position. It is sometimes about putting it all together offensively against really solid defenses, which is what they'll see against Roman Catholic. To me, it comes down to discipline, and can Roman Catholic find a way to establish the run to then set up Tysier Denmark? Because as good as he is, Imhotep can put an incredibly talented cover corner on him and then an all-world safety over the top if they feel that Roman Catholic can't run the football on him. And so that's going to be the big key. Can you run the football to establish the throw to get Tysier Denmark in one-on-one situations? That's how I think they stay in the game. And that's the only way I think they have a shot to win this one. But should be a great game. It's the one I'm looking forward to as well, Bruce.
Yeah, Joe, your thoughts?
Also, well, the Joe factor. Now, Dave knows what I'm talking about here. I've covered Roman twice this season. I covered them against Malvern. They were shut out to nothing. I covered them against St. Joe's Prep, and they got beat 42 to nothing. So I don't think Coach Preet wants to see me anymore. So I heard about this offense. I've seen glimpses of it. I saw them really, really challenge Malvern. By the way, when Malvern was still healthy and strong, before the wheels turned, for the wheels came off later in the season. But Malvern was still a very, very strong team at that time. And Roman had the ball right there on the brick. Roman's problem has been Roman, especially in a game like this. Roman's capable of beating Imhotep. The issue Roman's going to have, again, like Bob said, is going to be discipline. It's going to be, again, keeping away from the silly penalties. There was numerous offsides in crucial situations, if I recall correctly, against the Malvern Prep. Against St. Joe's Prep, they just simply got smoked. Denmark was rendered ineffective. But I'm looking forward to the game. The game's going to be fun to cover. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I got a chance to see Imhotep hand it to Bishop McDevitt earlier this year. This McDevitt's only loss is to Imhotep Charter. So I was totally impressed with the team back then. I'm still impressed with them now. Boy, that's going to be a toss-up. But Dave, you got a really good matchup there, Whitehall and Del Val.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be going to this game on Friday night. District 11-2 matchup. Del Val will make the trip down from Milford on 209 and make that trip down to the Valley. And I think this one will be an interesting game. Again, Del Val, they both don't have the best records, but they both played in, Whitehall obviously played in a tough division in the EPC South, playing Emmaus, Nazareth, Parkland, teams like that. Del Val, they traveled to Florida, lost a tough game by 1 point all the way in Florida. They played Downingtown East. They played Harrisburg. So playing this tough competition prepares you for this playoff run. I think this one could be a toss-up. It's at Whitehall. It's their home turf. If you want to give a team a slight edge, I guess you would give Whitehall that home field slight edge. But I would not be shocked if Del Val won, and I will not be shocked if Whitehall wins this one.
And Bob, I mean, what do you think, regarding, just that whole bracket? I mean,
Yeah.
the Philadelphia, coming out of that whole thing.
Sure. Well, yeah. And first off, Delaware Valley, great program, wonderful facility up there, and traditionally a good program. And I don't know if this is fair, Dave, but a little bit lighter in terms of depth teams up that way, and always show well and have the opportunity to advance. Let's say they do win that one, right? And it's Imhotep or Roman Catholic. I'll focus in on Imhotep a little bit here because we've talked a lot about this team. I really think that this is a revenge tour for them. Penn Trafford was a great team last year, and they rode their star out of the backfield to win that game. But Imhotep also got in their own way a little bit down the stretch there. And that's a game that, talking to folks around the program around the Philadelphia area, that was an expectation to win that game. They have the team, to do it again this year and hopefully close the deal if you're an Imhotep fan. So I think this is an interesting side of the bracket here, the District 12 title here, a chance to play Whitehall or Delaware Valley. Love what Roman's done, as I said in the initial comments, Bruce, but part of me feels like this is a revenge tour for Imhotep for a reason, and I think they're going to be really successful on this side of the bracket.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, one thing that's standing out for me in the brackets out west is Cathedral Prep. I mean, this, by the time they play their first state playoff game, they're going to be off for 3 weeks. Is that good or bad? What do you think, Bob?
My first question is, what are they doing? I mean, are they just running a bunch of inter-squad scrimmages? Are they taking on other teams whose seasons are done? I'm probably not that, but how do you prepare with a month off? I don't know. One thing we do know is
just can't allow that to happen. I mean, they have to make these teams play. I mean, if it's too easy for teams to just opt out. I mean, look, it's not fair. Forgetting about Cathedral Prep, okay?
Sure.
It's not fair to the other teams, okay? It's not fair to Strathaven and Upper Dublin, who's have to slug it out in a 16-team, 4-week battle of attrition. And then you're allowing this to happen out west for a team to have a significant physical advantage by not being beaten up for 3 games. The PIAA just can't allow that to happen. I think that they've got to do something.
Here's my answer. Just looking at the bracket this year, if they knew ahead of time, which I don't know if they did, but if they knew that, because listen, it was only 2 District 6 teams. One had 1 win, one didn't. That's why they opted out.
Fairfield
listen,
had 2 wins and they didn't opt out playing Steel High.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand.
What kind of example is that to set to your team and your players?
What they could do is look at, you're going to play District 7 anyway. So have District 7 add 9 teams instead of 8, put Cathedral Prep in that bracket part, and now you have a sub-region. Yeah. So now they're playing, every team's playing the same amount of games. That's how you solve it.
Yeah. Well, it's completely, I don't think it's fair at all for the entire 5A program, whether they win or lose. That it's just not fair that it's even an opportunity. But that behind us, I think one of the teams that's playing the best football in the state of Pennsylvania, regardless of classification, is Pine Richland. They're playing very well, even though they've got 3 losses. It was very early on, and they've really been on a roll. In
Yeah.
District 3, there's two Cinderella stories: a 12 seed Cocalico and an 11 seed Northern York still
Northern
alive.
York.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Bill Miller at Northern York. I mean, he's a good friend of mine. I mean, my gosh, he had a very good team that I saw play earlier this year, and I thought that they were gonna
Yeah.
go far. But they have an 11 seed and a 12 seed, alive and kind of in the same bracket this late. So we'll see if the shoe is going to fit Cinderella, either one of those. But that's very interesting on that side of the bracket.
And then Bruce, there's a Cinderella last year that now is a big dog this year, right in your neck of the woods, Exeter.
Yeah, Exeter
that
sure.
played the spoiler role last year, and now has to take on Northern York, but could get right back to that District 3 title game.
And Solanco, no one has taught. I mean, Solanco's been ranked all
Oof.
year. I went and saw them play a game just to see what kind of talent they had. They're undefeated. They've got some players. It isn't like 5 yards and a clump of grass on your old steel cleats anymore at Solanco. They can open it up a bit, and so I think it's going to be very competitive coming out of District 3, and then ultimately, leading to a state semifinal. So 5A, I mean, it's just loaded with landmines everywhere you turn, and loaded with stories. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And so let's see if I can get the 6A brackets here.
You scroll up there, Bruce.
Scroll up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go too far. Oh man,
You're right there.
All right, here we go. All right.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I tell you what, I got all these windows open. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Hopefully not, with all my windows open here. But let's start on the west side of the bracket here first. How about with like State College? Nobody's really talking about State College. They've been one of my fancies all year. I like the fact that they can play a lot of different kind of games, and in my mind, they seem to be, one of the dogs that one of the dogs that can really hunt out there. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, we had Coach on not too long ago, and listen, they're playing at home, undefeated. They're going to play a very good McDowell team out of the Erie area. I like State College to win that, and we'll see who comes out of that District 7. I mean, you never could count out Central Catholic, but North Allegheny, I know it was only a 7-0 game last week in that, downpour that they had to play in last week. But they've been playing some pretty good ball.
Yeah, and Central Catholic, quite honestly, they're finally healthy. And they were one of the preseason favorites out in the WPIAL, and they're finally getting their act together. Bob, any comments on State College? Obviously, being up from spending some time up in the Altoona area, whatever like that. That's who they beat to get this far.
Yes, absolutely right. Listen, State College is in a position. It's not the Delaware Valley situation, but it's such where they are the preeminent program up there in that district. And so they have opportunities to experience playoff football year in and year out. And I think that's a big deal. I really do. And so even though they haven't gotten to, say, the state championship in recent years, this is a program that knows what playoff football entails, and they play the big boys every year. I think they're a team that has good chance to win this weekend. And then, boy, Central Catholic or North Allegheny matchup against State College is appointment viewing the day after or 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, any comments on just the West in general there? I mean, especially Central Catholic.
Well, they clipped the defending state champions 28-7, so that's good. That's a strong sign. I don't know how much more Mount Lebanon had coming back this year, but when you look back over everything, they clipped them. Now this is holding up. This is also holding up the chalk here on the western side. Do I see?
Yep, pretty much.
So, I honestly, from what you guys are telling me, and obviously I believe what you guys are telling me, that the West is competitive and there's a lot more balance there. But I don't see. We were hearing, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. We were hearing around mid-October about Mount Lebanon. Correct me if I'm wrong. Last year, right? They were, it was a senior-laden team. They had a special group.
Yeah.
So we were hearing already what was coming out of there. I don't know, and also correct me if I'm wrong. The western side of the state won a record, or the Whitfield won a record for the six state this year, right?
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
Again, the whole area was from what I remember and what I understand, it was a senior laden area with senior laden teams.
I think it was 18 or 19 seniors, Joe, that started on the 22 for Mount Lebanon last year, which, by the way, is incredibly impressive that they came back and were the 2 seed in District 7. Bob Palco,
much credit to them. Palco does he's a fantastic coach. He does an amazing job. But I don't see that in a very roundabout way, I don't see any world beaters on the left-hand side of the state. I don't see anyone right now that you turn around and say, yikes, this is coming our way. I do see, and I also see balance on the eastern side of the state. But but I do see, if there's a strength from what I know, it looks like it's going to be right now, at least going into as this thing starts to narrow down. It looks like the strength's going to be a little bit more weighted on the eastern side of the state.
Yeah, clearly, as it should. There are more big schools in obviously District 12 and District 1 as we go along. But obviously St. Joe Prep, you guys have seen them. I've seen them this year. They're, LaSalle gave them, a ball game last week, which a lot of people didn't expect, Bob. What do you think as far as, St. Joe Prep? Do you think that they're the overwhelming favorite to come out of that bracket? What are your thoughts?
Overwhelming favorite to come out of that bracket. Yes. Listen, I'm not in the business of prognostication, particularly not on games that I'm broadcasting. But now that the season for LaSalle is over, yeah. It surprised me a little bit that they had the ball on the other side of midfield with a chance to tie the game in the final minutes. And as a LaSalle guy, proud of the effort that the guys put in, and glad they had one last stand. It was incredible and a great way to end the season for them. I think St. Joe's Prep learns from that. Maybe this is where Joe can jump in, but Tim Roken is a coach that you don't normally see, and I'm not saying that was a letdown, but you don't normally see teams play them that close. And I think this is a learning opportunity for them in a victory, which is not always easy to come by. I think they do take care of Northeast. I just think there's a higher level of football being played at St. Joe's Prep. Great season for Northeast. Congratulations to them. I think they walked through by multiple touchdowns this weekend. What's going on in District 11? Again, I know there's some great talent up there year after year. It looks like there's balance and parity up there. I think St. Joe's Prep is going to work their way through that. And it could be a rematch of Garnet Valley and St. Joe's Prep again this year in the semifinals. Though I do want to give out a shout out to Perk Valley, knowing a lot of people from that neighborhood. It's not far from me. Boy, they have had a great year, and everything I hear about it is it's a bunch of grinders, guys that just are disciplined, play really hard, are a little undersized at certain positions, and they've just found a way to win all year long. And if it does happen to be Garnet Valley versus Perkiomen Valley, that would be a really fun game to watch and a nice showcase for District 1.
Joe, your thoughts?
I was there with Bob last week, and a couple of things I noticed. One, Coach Roken walking off the field at halftime. I think I saw steam coming out of his ears. He was that angry at halftime because he knows his team could have performed far better than they did. Secondly, I saw a different approach after the game. It wasn't like, "Phew, we got out of this." No, it was actually, we needed this. That the prep coaching staff to a man, the prep players, talking to some of them after the game, they were like, we needed this kick in the tail. We needed to turn around. We needed to. If this is going to jumpstart us, this is a good thing to jumpstart us. And what is going to need to be done for them to turn around and continue is, and Bob saw what I saw, what everybody saw. They need more than Samaj Jones to carry them. I mean, Samaj took that team on his back and almost willed that victory in the end. I mean, Bob, if you remember, I mean, he took the ball and tucked it, made numerous plays with his legs.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Roken called 4th and 2 with a minute and a half left on their own 38, and he was stopped short. And then he had a second effort to get a half-yard past the line. So, yeah, in the very definition of it, he put the team on his back and willed it to a victory. I couldn't believe the call, although in some ways I could, because Tim has so much confidence in that offense. But it was in many ways an incredible call to go for it. 4th and 2 at your own 38 with a minute and a half left, up by a touchdown. Wow.
Now, Prep might have a secret weapon waiting in the wings. We'll see where this goes. But he's a 6', 200-pound freshman running back named Isaiah West. Got hurt earlier this season. He may be healthy enough to come back.
Wow.
And that is going to be, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, he's not exactly Kevin Jones. Bob knows what we're referring to there. Kevin was a very special player, but Isaiah is pretty damn good. And from what I'm hearing and what I understand, he could take some load off of Samaj's back. And Samaj is going to need that load taken off his back. Samaj's issue going into the States is going to be Samaj. And his last throw, regrettably in last year's state playoffs, happened to be at the back of a Mount Lebanon player's head. If you remember the tail end of that state championship game, some tensions rose. So there's a lot of things there that are motivating Samaj to come back and lead this senior group to something that they didn't get to last year. And this was also a prep team last year that the coaching staff was, I'm not going to use the term just happy to be there, because we all know the expectations that the school has each year and the expectations that coaching staff has in the players. But I will say this, they didn't expect that group to mature and be as good as they turned out to be and getting as far as they did to the state title. Yeah, it was tough. You get there, you want to win. It is St. Joe's Prep. They don't just play. We're just happy to be there. It's not the attitude at that school. But behind closed doors, behind closed curtains, I know there was a lot of satisfaction in what that team did last season. Now this is the season that they want to put the hammer down. This is a senior group that won state titles as freshmen, that won a state title as sophomores, lost as juniors, and want to put their stamp on going through as 3 out of 4, and that's not a bad way to go out. So again, there's a lot of motivation here with this team, with this group, and there was also some mistakes there with St. Joe's Prep that Bob and I both saw last Thursday that were very correctable. There was a botched snap during a crucial moment of that game. That Samaj again, just jumped on and kind of saved the day a little bit. So there is a lot of talent around Samaj Jones. He's going to get that help. It's going to come. And let's see what Isaiah West does. I mean, he's a 6 foot, 205, 210-pound freshman running back. And there's some gunpowder there deep in those pockets that we may see rise to the surface over these next weeks.
Well, obviously everybody expects Prep to come out of the top side, the bottom side there, District 1. Garnet Valley had a big scare last week. And you've got a couple Cinderellas there too. Downingtown East, a 12 seed, CB West, an 11 seed. Garnet Valley, Perkiomen Valley, probably the favorites. Yeah, I think that could be one of the more interesting brackets overall of you know, who's going to come out of there. I think that clearly Garnet Valley and Perk Valley probably the best two there. Um, and yeah, it's
I
going to be
also would not be surprised to see either of them lose this weekend.
really.
I think that both of those teams probably do advance, but I don't think that it's a sure thing in either of those games. Joe,
No,
you
and I know going into the Garnet Valley game, just one name, Bo Horvath. He ran for
Yeah.
275, a career high 275, and 5 TDs against West. Before West could look up, it was 14-0.
Wow.
And they ran basic. Yeah, I remember covering the game. I was talking to Dave about this after the game.
Yeah.
West knew what East was going to run. They knew what they were going to run. I mean, they would call it out. 49 main, 49 main. He's going left. And East still ran left. So it's one of those things where you know what we're going to do. We know you know what we're going to do. We're still going to do it. And they did. They just ran roughshod over a pretty big West team. And people were shocked, not so much that East won, but the fact that East just smoked them, absolutely destroyed them, 34-9. So Horvath runs for 275 against a pretty good West team. And the week before, he ran for 255 in their 31-15 win over Coatesville. So let's look at what East has done over this last month. They went Coatesville. They closed the regular season. Victory over Coatesville. Victory over a loss to West during the regular season. Then they have to face Coatesville again in the opening round.
We
Lost your audio.
And then you
There
hear me
you
now?
go. Yep.
There we go. And then they have to play West again. So they went Coatesville West. That is a gauntlet that no other team on the eastern side of the state has had to deal with. And these are rival games. These are games where both teams, all three of those teams, know everything about each other. And East still came out of that. So if East does pull this off, and again, I don't think Garnet Valley, there's not much of a scouting report here. This is what we do. This is what they do. This is how they run it. For me, who's going to be covering the game, it's going to be a joy because both teams run the hell out of the ball, and I'm going to be out of Dodge in 20 minutes. So that is
that's the spirit, Joe.
Exactly.
The only difference is with
I want a quick game.
Garnet Valley has that. Garnet Valley runs a lot of subterfuge. Do this, do that, sleight of hand. You don't know where they're going to be. Bing bang boom. Again, East will be dependent on pounding the ball. And here's where East possibly, and I say possibly, can win this. Garnet Valley is not very big. And East pretty much rolled over a pretty large Downingtown West team last week. That's going to be, let's see how that plays out. It's going to be a matter of a quick, small defense, a quick, small, aggressive defense in Garnet Valley going up against a pretty strong bulldozer type team in Downingtown East.
Yeah. Well, all I can say about the District 3 bracket is I don't think I've ever seen it so evenly matched. Any one of the 4 teams remaining, Hempfield, Manheim Township, Central York, or Harrisburg, any one of those teams, it is they're all pick'em games. They're all very good teams. Manheim Township maybe on a big roll after a tough game against Cumberland Valley, but Central York, I mean, they can score with anybody. I mean, it was 51-44 game there. I broadcast the Harrisburg-Wilson game. Harrisburg, I tell you what, they're reinventing themselves. I mean, it's all running the football and ball control, not what you think from Harrisburg, but I'll tell you what, they can run the football very effectively, and they clearly looked their best all season. So, gosh, all my District 3 friends here probably want me to go on the record and say who I think's going to win. Man, it's really tough. And the only thing I could say, I tell you what, I like Central York, and I like Manheim Township to get to the final game. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. That's for sure. But the 6A bracket, very interesting. Dave, any final thoughts on 6A?
The big game up here is obviously a matchup with Parkland and Freedom. Freedom, knocked off Emmaus, the number one seed last week, 28-27. A tremendous game. Parkland's healthy. They're probably playing their best ball right now. It's a great matchup. Monsman, the coach at Parkland, was telling me that he coached Rotor in college, and those guys know each other. They know what they're going to throw at each other, and in this game, it's just going to be about executing plays. Who's going to make the mistake? Who's going to capitalize on it? It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be all these games. I think, this time of year are great. It really doesn't matter even what classification. There's so much emotion, so much riding on each and every one, and it only just keeps crescendoing as we head to Cumberland Valley. Anybody with any final thoughts on the fact that, Bob, actually, you and I will be over doing the soccer championships, the girls, on Friday. This will be your first occasion to go to Cumberland Valley, won't it?
Sure will. Yes, looking forward to it. Yes, we'll be producing and broadcasting for the NFHS network for the boys and girls 1A and 3A soccer finals. So maybe we'll do a little scouting report.
Well, I've done 3 games at Cumberland Valley this year, so it's going to be.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what improvements they've made to Cumberland Valley Stadium in anticipation of this event. I'm hopeful that it all goes off without a hitch, and what great games we have over the next 3 weekends to determine the qualifiers for those state title games.
It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Joe just wants to make sure that he's got a nice warm seat in the press box.
Well, there is supposedly 2 press boxes there now, and I think what you need to do is scout some food venues for Joe, so we could make sure Joe's taken care of.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The one thing that everybody will just like marvel at driving to Cumberland Valley High School is the fact that there's a stretch of about a mile where there's nothing but car dealerships. I mean, there's no places to eat. It's just car dealerships on both sides of the road. So, very.
What do I need to do? What do I need to do to get you a meal today?
Yeah, I don't know, but it should be a lot of fun. Hey, listen, Bob, thanks for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. It was a blast going through the brackets, and I'll see you on Friday.
Can't wait. Get some sleep, Bruce, and do some studying. We got a lot to figure out.
We got a lot to figure out with it. We got a lot to figure out is right, and everybody's going to have a lot to figure out as we go through all of these games over the next couple weeks on who's going to make it to Hershey. Listen, thanks for joining us here on Fresh Set of Downs this week. Our special guest, Bob Long. I'm Bruce Badgley for Joe Santiloquito, for Dave Mika. Hey, listen, we'll see you next week. Take care.